Megan Bray. I had this fear in my mind that somehow I would forget their names up here, so I'm really glad that I got through that part. They're all here to talk about New Genres, which is a collective made up of alumni, students, collaborators, but people really associated with the REMCAD community. We're always looking for more people too, so keep that in mind as you hear sort of what we're about and what the projects are. We have performed, I say we because I am also part of this collective, along with Jeff Page, who's an adjunct here. We developed it with Alex Kilgore, who was a student at the time, and it's been a lot of fun and a lot of success so far. So we performed at the Dam, the Denver Art Museum, a couple of times, in Santa Fe, at Currents New Media Festival, David B. Smith Gallery. One of my favorites was just in an empty storefront, though, just out in front of here, actually, next to Casa Bonita. And I think they're going to talk about that one maybe a little bit. So all kinds of venues, DIY and well-established. So without further ado, I will let them jump into it.
Thank you for coming.
Yes, thank you guys. I'm just gonna play this video first. It's just sort of almost a culmination of a lot of different performances we did, and also sort of a weird piece in itself. So yeah, that was just a little promo video that I made a while back while I was actually in school here. So I guess we'll just start by introducing ourselves. I'm Alex, and I joined New Genres Collective while I was actually in one of Toby's classes. It was like a I believe it was 4D class, where sort of experimental type work was being done. And yeah, he needed a founding member from the class, and that was when I really had no idea what I was doing at school here and like how to navigate the school. So I sort of just accepted that, and yeah, it became a pretty big part of my life.
Hi, I am Drew Austin. I'm also part of New Genres, obviously. So outside of New Genres, I'm also an interdisciplinary artist and a curator. I joined New Genres, I think at the first performance, the Red Line one. And then we just went from there. I had recently graduated, so I came in as an alumni, and I think I was the only alumni at that time. And now we have this nice balance between alumni and students and guest artists all the time. So, yeah.
My name's Megan. I'm also a member, of course. I'm an interdisciplinary artist as well. I kind of started with New Genres because I've just done one thing for a very long time, which was painting. And I took a sculpture class the last year that I had here because I was kind of afraid that I was going to miss out on stuff. And I remember seeing one of their performances and being like, wow, this is really different. Something that I'm kind of uncomfortable with. It's definitely weird, but I want to be a part of it and push myself. Yeah.
So New Genres has a lot of different biographies, I would say, but
Yeah.
at its core, it is a group of, I would say, students and alumni and guests. We call it kind of oscillating. It changes between 2 members doing something to 10 members doing something. It always changes. There's never the same kind of people. But it is kind of rooted at REMCAD, starting with the faculty, alumni, and students, and then we kind of expand out from there. But it seems to have remained within this home for a good 2 years now, 3-ish years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's one of New Genres' strengths, is being able to like fluctuate between having some people like music collaborators that aren't like
Even
art like traditionally at all, but it
Yeah.
just sort of fits in the way that we like sort of move through our performances and things.
And the free-flowingness of it is what allows all of those really good ideas to come out and like take form, is because not one person just has that set, I'm the leader of the group and this is the idea that we're going to perform. It's more like we kind of just start with one idea and kind of let a snowball effect happen from there. And there are no idea is too weird, which is the best part about it.
Yeah, I would say definitely
Sorry, no. I would say we try to like make it weirder as possible. Like the weirder we can make it, we're like, ooh, I'm gonna top that.
Yeah,
you
most
know.
bizarre things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say the something that for me that is really, really interesting and unique about New Genres that gives me a lot of life about it is the fact that just what Megan said is it like starts as one idea and then transforms from there completely. It's usually very site specific. We use a lot of like, we like to visit our site and have reference to it and like to use it. Like these specific ones here, these windows were here and we wanted to specifically use them. I would say this one for sure was like a crazy site specific one where we went between 2 different buildings and tried to kind of connect them visually. But yeah, it starts as like this tiny seed idea, and within an hour of talking, it could transform into something completely different, or it could stay very rooted in one idea. But it's completely different. I'd say it's rooted in new media and performance always, though. That's always kind of the meat of New Genres. Should I move past here?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry.
We're going to break down all of these projects, I believe, throughout. You want to talk about the development or how
Yes.
it started?
Yeah, so I love this slide. I just made like a dome.
That signifies.
Yeah, so we started here at REMCAD. I think that it was, for all intents and purposes, a way for us to interact with people from different backgrounds, different majors and things. And this was like a really good way for us to be able to do that and also just experiment and just do whatever we wanted to do. And I think whenever I started, I didn't even like really know what that meant. I didn't even know what like experimental or performance art sort of even was. And being able to like have the opportunity to be a part of it, even from the very beginning, it was really interesting to sort of go into that world, a world that I really had no idea about.
Yeah.
This
Yeah,
is
so-
all your work.
Yeah, so yeah, I just wanted to compile like all the cool posters that we made.
Well, I mean, that's also totally a part of New Genres Collective. We've done a piece that is just all text, but I feel like the design, you have a very, very nice way of kind of encapsulating the performance or the feeling of the performance through the design, which I think just speaks to how well New Genres is so interdisciplinary. Like we take
Yeah.
on illustrators, we take on performers, we take on video artists, we take on painters, graphic designers, interior designers. It kind of ranges throughout, but everyone has this unique voice that they bring to it and their unique eye about this one idea that we have. Plus, everyone always has all these cool props, and everyone brings from different things, and they'll have a new device that they want to use, and then that'll spark a whole new conversation about what we can do. But I would say you have a very specific skill of like combining all of the thoughts into a performance poster. Like you're very good at it.
I think, yeah, I think that, you know, being just like showing this off, I mean, it is, it just does, you know, speak to the different avenues that you're able to take just by being a part of it, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I love the performance aspect, but I also like just love making posters. And so I just make posters for the club sometimes.
I think we could all say as students we thought that it was going to be a lot easier for us to have ways to show our work. It was going to be like multiple options all the time, but it's not always like that. You kind of have to make it for yourself. The New Genres Club is definitely the one that does that for you because on my own I wouldn't necessarily know somebody from David B. Smith Gallery or the Dam, you know, because I just graduated. But now since I'm a part of New Genres Collective, I've gotten the chance to, you know, say hello, introduce myself to them, and even though it's not the work that I personally do, they still get to meet you and see that, oh, this person wants to do something different, is committed to doing a performance that necessarily isn't what they do all the time, but willing to put themselves out there. I think not many clubs in this school give you that opportunity.
I'd also say in my experience, it's been starting as an alumni, it was really interesting to team up with Jeff and Toby, who are very connected throughout the Denver art scene. They know a lot of really good people and spaces and like avenues to get to different spaces and things like that. So as an alumni, it was really cool to jump in and immediately have those opportunities to work with those spaces. But now as I continue on in my own curational practice, it's like me bringing New Genres in occasionally too, or spearheading a project, which has really been cool. It's going from the role of the student collaborator to the role of the kind of advisor or the leader of that one project, you know, which is really super cool. As a creative to see both of those sides of the coin.
And you do such a good job at like organizing and getting everything together. You wouldn't think that that's
Thanks.
hard, but when you have 15 people and you're trying to coordinate schedules and props and all that stuff and take photos and video, it's a lot. So they're also very like chill with that. If you can't do one, then we'll save you another one. If there's one that's really important, then you can put that in your calendar and look forward to it. It's not like you have to do everyone, and if you don't, then you're not a part of the group, you know.
That's very true. New
Yeah.
Genres is also very welcoming. You
Yeah.
know?
Oh, yeah.
We take people in and we will show them one action that they need to do, and then they're part of that performance, and then they get to feel the vibe of the night, and then they can come to the next one and take on more of a bigger role. But we're so welcoming to anyone who wants to join or wants to try something or just wants to maybe have a small role in something. And the roles completely change. I think we've mentioned this a couple times, but like Toby will spearhead a project and it'll be all on Toby, and then we all just show up, and then the next time it's like, all right, Alex, you're doing the entire thing, and then we all kind of show up. And sometimes it's spread out between us, and so it's just it's a nice like kind of flowing team that is never solid, which is kind of difficult as a team, but we've made it work so far. I don't know, it's a bizarre monster that it is. Let's flip through. why we do it.
Um,
Megan, I feel like, oh, sorry. Do you want to tell your story? I feel like you're,
Sure.
you went from
Yeah.
painting to performing.
Yeah.
I mean, I touched on it a little bit, but I think that why I do it is it was at first it was a way for me to interact with people that I wasn't normally interacting with, but I think that we've been doing it for so long. I think that I do it for the community that we have and that community that's growing from it, and how. I mean, there's so many opportunities that have come from this, and I don't want to sound opportunistic, but it is like a side effect of being around all these great people making great work, and that's why I do it.
Yeah. I think I did it because it was something completely different than what I was used to. So used to two-dimensional, always alone, by myself, painting. And it was a way for me to also get to talk to people who do a lot of different stuff than I do. Like, technology has never been a part of my practice. So working with, we always have projection or lights or some form of technology that is completely different from what I do. So not only am I learning something new, but I get to not create in a vacuum, which is what I was always told was the worst thing to do. And get to meet people out there who I necessarily wouldn't get to put my face in front of normally. So, yeah, it opens up a lot of doors if you do it.
Yep. These are just some images. That's me sitting in a corner.
He listened to the same song on repeat, and he would hand it to you so you could listen to it, and it was the most atrocious. It was terrible. It was just
it wasn't fun.
Ringing or rattling. It was just what you would hear if you go crazy, And so he just sat there for hours and listened to it.
It's good. I had a little video that was on this stand that kind of goes up. That's out of the sight lines. But yeah, that was an interesting performance. We worked with the term lorem, and we all took on a different view of that and kind of made a quasi-group exhibition within one space. It's interesting. Cool. You want to just we're just going to break down some projects, explain what it is.
I could play this video real quick.
Do a little short dude. This is from Currents New Media Festival, which is, I would say, one of our first really large projects that was we had some support and we had marketing, and it felt like a legit thing.
Oh God.
Yeah, go for it.
We did have marketing.
It's just a minute long.
Oh, great.
I don't know if there's actually any sound. All right, we can talk through it if you want.
Yeah, let's just turn it down a little bit.
Yeah.
So the original idea of this dome, which comes up a couple times, we've used it in a couple other performances, was that we wanted to talk about that connection to REMCAD and talking about home, which is the term domicile. And so we were projecting and playing with lights and sound from the inside while also having one person who was kind of rooted on the outside, doing this action over the course of 3-4 hours, something like that.
Yeah. And then Des was sitting in front. She was sewing words into a tarp. Do you remember what it was?
It was things about home and placement and being in one spot. It was really just, the central concept, that one idea that started this all was, I think, the dome. And that we all were connected for this dome, and so we wanted to kind of perform within it. And this is also maybe the first time we started using Mylar in our performances.
Yeah, so you can see how crazy it is in there.
Yeah,
There's 8 projectors,
unbelievably hot.
all kinds of lights. Yeah, it's
all of us have tech. We're going in and out of that dome.
Definitely
so
a fire
much fun,
hazard.
Throughout the night.
It's so much fun. You're like, hand me those scissors, and they're like, why do you need scissors? And you're like, I don't know. Just give them to me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But this was this was such a cool thing to be a part of as a graduating alumni, to be we're going to an international new media festival to do this performance.
Right.
That's such a cool thing. And then we also got help. We got a little bit of funding through REMCAD, so that it felt like they were really backing us and supporting us throughout the entire process. And it just felt good to all be in a different spot, working towards a goal together. It was a really really cool
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah, really grateful that REMCAD let us do that and go on that trip.
Yeah,
Yeah.
some great visuals that happen.
Yeah, some
Mhm.
good photos from in there, some test photos. I would say most of our performances look like this.
Well, honestly,
We
yeah.
maybe hide them better than this one, but
Right.
there's always wires and tech and lots of people wearing one color.
Yeah.
It was a big crew for that one. This
Yeah.
is probably one of the largest performances we've ever had, too.
Totally. And it was in a different state.
Yeah, in a different
Yep.
state. I think it was such a cool opportunity. Do you want to talk this one?
Sure, yeah. So let's see. For this event, the New Yorkers Collective took over Mayor Harris Auditorium on campus for 1 hour on a Thursday evening, inspired by Lynchian aesthetic of the auditorium. The NGC pursued the simple task of creating a dreamlike, droned-out effect to the room through video, performative presence, light, shadow, play, and sound. Much of this was improvisational, experimental. So this was a really interesting thing. I think that most of the performances that we have are really long time spans, so we sort of make them durational and have this changing action or aesthetic throughout it. So through this one, we were first starting out in the seats themselves, and everyone was sort of coming in and kind of confused about what was going on. And then we came back up, and we're playing behind the screen itself and using the weird shadows that are affected by like moving closer and further away from the projection. And then, so towards the end, that's where we end up on the ground here with our phone lights in our eyes. This was a really interesting project because you weren't really sure what, like the audience is sort of trying to figure out exactly how this is happening behind the screen.
Yeah.
And it came up with some really great visuals, and everyone's just sort of doing their own thing, but there's like an aesthetic thread that we're all sort of following and being able to be a part of.
I think I wasn't a part of this one yet. I wasn't a part of New Genres yet. And I think this was the first one that I saw. That was what like made me want to join, because I think I understood what you guys were trying to say about how like technology is overwhelming with those pictures of them laying on the floor with the light and just kind of blaring out everything else, but it can also be a jumping off point, like the creativity and making these cool shadows and abstract images and stuff. So like all pretty much what New Genre is about in like one performance. A little bit.
Yeah.
Balancing, having a community around technology instead of letting it be one of those things that like separates you, because people can get sucked into their phones very easily.
I feel like this performance actually sparked a lot of the further aesthetic that
Yes.
we've used as well.
Oh, yeah.
Light and shadow, I feel like that's our primary material, and this kind of phone in your face or using phone for light type thing started here, I think, and we've used it in a lot of performances. We use like our handheld technology that we have a lot, and that kind of overwhelming but also really helpful view of technology. I feel like it just flows through every single performance that we do.
Yeah, for sure.
This is some views of in the audience.
With Toby right there.
Toby. So this is a project that we did at David B. Smith. So what you're seeing is kind of the installation documentation. So what we did was an opening night performance that was, I think like 3 hours long, which I think there are some photos of. And then we did kind of a month-long installation that was in the space for the rest of the exhibition, that kind of gave you a sense of what we were doing with the performance, but it was something completely different, which is also something that we like to do, is like performances and also an installation. And they always are so different, but very, very well connected.
Yeah.
Do you have any? Yeah, here we go.
Here we go.
So this is from the actual night of the performance.
Yeah, if you can imagine, it's just a tiny room, and we're just in here with these screens, sort of distorting reality and watching. It was really interesting to see like how you could like see the changes throughout the night, and how
people were like very intimidated almost.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
They're
mean,
like,
because we're
"What's
sort of
going
just
on?" I don't
staring
know
at
if
the.
intimidate. They
Well,
just-
we were also pretty intimidating.
Yeah,
Yeah.
We just
Just
stood
staring.
there all black.
Yeah. But it's like one of those things where it's like almost like dismembered arm, but then like that's like very visually pleasing. So you're like
Yeah.
conflicted about how you feel.
Yeah.
We kind of described
Yeah.
it as like a human collage.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
human
exactly.
collage.
It's so interesting to see like me being held by myself,
Yeah.
with someone else's body.
Yeah.
Um,
And then Kate
Super
sitting there, and
interested.
there's Drew's leg.
yep.
It's like the difference
Yeah.
in size too, in foot.
This one was also, I feel like, maybe one of the first that was like really, really physically demanding for a long
Oh,
period of
yeah.
time, which I feel like we're starting to build up a little bit more. But holding
That
that
was hard.
screen for a
That's
duration of a half an
TV.
hour, 45 minutes was not easy.
Mhm.
But being that we're trying to be like neutral and not and intimidating and just kind of be the like the catalyst to present this collage, we had to be like statues. We tried to
Yeah.
be statues as much as
Just
we
like
could.
trembling,
Yeah.
holding this TV.
This
So
is.
yeah, I think
do
you
want
guys.
me to talk about
Yeah, I
this
think you
one
guys.
again?
I wasn't a part of this one,
I
which
wasn't
is.
either.
Taking over all of them. Okay, well,
I
so
was-
this we just did. Charity was a huge piece of this one. It's called Naturally Artificial, in which we did our first collaboration with Amazon Alexa, which I feel like is something we're trying to kind of expand on now.
A collaboration.
Yeah, so we did, it was at Lakewood Cultural Center. It was up for a festival that they just started called Timeshare. And what it was we had 3 or 4 suspended lights that were smart compatible, and then we also had 3 different projections of color changing light that change over the course of a half an hour, as well as a monitor of video works. So there was a lot going on, but primarily what it was the color changing was on 3 different walls, and you'd see the shadows that got projected through all the vitrines in the middle. So this kind of look was what you saw throughout the entire space, and all of the colors none of them were synced, so all the colors kind of changed throughout. The sound was also different because it depended on the Alexa. I don't know if there's so there's an image of the screen, and what the screen is you hear the ding that you would hear in an airport or in an airplane to like get your attention, and then a person comes on the screen, delivers an Alexa command to Alexa, which is sitting right down here, and then Alexa will change the installation depending on what command we give her. So we changed the sound in the space, we changed the brightness of the installation, we changed the color of the installation, and then meanwhile, the entire installation was changing and was never the same thing once, never the same thing over and over, you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Because the colors changed all the time, and the sound and the amount of Alexa commands and stuff were changing all the time. So it was really super engaging, really interesting. It was such a simple thing. It was just a couple sculptures and projectors and an Alexa, but really engaging, I thought. Some more little close-ups of all the different vitrines. Tons of different colors. Oh, that is kind of similar to Tempest, but it's not.
Mhm.
I don't think we actually have any specific images from Tempest, but we, is this understudy or is this?
Yeah, it is. This is understudy.
Okay. So Tempest was an installation we did at Derry Art Center where we like emulated a storm. This was kind of like a.
Oh, that's my fault.
That's
I put the
cool.
wrong
You know.
stuff in there.
Whatever.
So this was this installation here was at understudy, and this was a really small group of students, and Drew was there as well. It was Drew's sort of doing. We
Drew led it.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it was a really strange sort of probably the most that we've used this like reflective mylar stuff just to sort of like distort reality and like create these really beautiful shadows, and it sort of became this, I think, an exploration in itself of like how sort of just how we can create just beautiful imagery from very minuscule adjustments and things, and it came out like it came out in a way that was was really interesting because we were able to do so much with just, there's probably 3 different colored lights and lots of Mylar, but just changing these shadows and these colors and things, we were able to, you know, create some really striking imagery.
Yeah, I think I wasn't a part of this one, but I know that that kind of has been an important thread for new genres is
Absolutely.
taking those things also that you take for granted, like the blue screen on a projector or when your computer goes to sleep, and making it into a work of art that you wouldn't normally
Yeah.
look at.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Or
This-
something so simple.
This one was
Yeah.
really, really exciting for me too, because I had an installation up within the space, and then I invited new genres to come and participate within it. And it was one of the performances that like no one came to, which is super interesting because then it just became like what we call like a media jam, where
Yeah.
we sit and we play with technology and try things. But we got some really, really striking documentation from it. But it was crazy to see like this really intricate installation that I put together and had a concept for and a vision for change drastically in like an hour, and see the potential of expanding the installation and changing it and doing things within it. It was really exciting to like invite them in and see how we all reacted to my work.
And sometimes the like best thing is, I wouldn't say the best thing because you always want people to come and see it in real life, but you can take that opportunity to put this on your CV or resume, and you know, I had a show at understudy.
Yeah.
You know, that's great. Even
Yeah.
if nobody shows up, they don't know that.
Right.
Yeah.
And we get some
You
pretty
still have
beautiful
pictures.
images, yeah.
It's really interesting because a lot of times like we perform for documentation, you know. I mean, ideally we want as many people to be there as possible for the performance, but many times people aren't. So a lot of our work is conveyed through like kind of that cameo video that you did at the beginning, or video documentation, or photographs. And we're lucky to have an art form that usually is displayed well through documentation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You get to see the little cameo of the squeeze box over here. This is a new genre staple.
Favorite prop. And that's not to say that all of our shows are like that. We have had shows where there's a lot of people that show up.
Very true. Yep.
Yeah, it's just like any other career, it's always hit or miss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you in this one?
Oh, yeah, yep, I
I'm
was
sorry.
on this one.
You go for it.
Okay. This one was at the dam. We had a projection of like I think it was like an X-Acto mat, right? It kind of looked like
What was
an
the
X-Acto.
test pattern?
Yeah, the
Oh.
test
Projector
pattern.
test pattern.
Yes, there was a projector test pattern, like I was mentioning before, taking that random stuff and turning it into something you wouldn't necessarily think could be used as an art piece. So we had that projected on the back wall, and we set up kind of a screen in front of us, and we had these giant hands that we would use to move things around, and it was like we were interacting with this. I always thought of it as like a cutting mat for an X-Acto knife.
Yeah.
And like, I thought of it as somebody working, except for you're just seeing it with like these giant hands, but really it's like 6 or 7 people back there doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we used our own hands. It was like kind of a process. I think it was a durational one between, it was like 30 minutes or something like that. It might have been
Yeah.
shorter, but
Every
it was
30 minutes, and
kind of use our hands, and then we'd integrate these cardboard hands and kind of distort reality. Again, I feel like we play a lot with what is real and what is not real. Through just, you know, that's like a subconscious thing that comes up, I think. But
Yeah.
yeah.
oh yeah.
Let's see if there's any couple. Yeah. So you can,
Yeah.
I mean, we're very obvious about like being behind it. Like people could come behind and look if they wanted to. Most people didn't because we were like backed into this corner. But
Right.
I feel like a lot of our work is like that, where we don't hide things just to hide them. We kind of expose the process and expose how simple materials and simple actions can create this really gorgeous, striking image or
Yeah.
striking kind of moving performance.
And we're not trying to take ourselves too seriously. It's not
That
like
is
we're
for
like,
sure.
here's this big, super impressive thing, and like, you know, there's that like feeling that you get sometimes. We want to be approachable because we are collective. We want to have people feel like I could be a part of that.
Mm-hmm.
You
Right.
know,
Yeah, totally. You can see the hand holding up a hand. And
hand holding.
Yeah.
There's a hand
hand
holding
holding
a
up a
hand, yeah.
hand.
This one was really interesting too because a lot of it, we had the lights coming from behind, and so a lot of it was obscured to us. So we were just going based on trusting what we knew worked and trusting each other, which I feel like is a huge part of our process too, where it's like someone will show up after hearing this idea and not know what they're doing and then get one direction from someone and they just react and trust everyone else, and it just becomes this organic process of failing sometimes, usually succeeding, but mostly just kind of like you go in and you trust each other and you have fun, and it is what it is, you know?
Like this one, I don't think I got any like preview of what we were doing. Like everybody, life happens, and I had so many things going on, and it was like last minute, and I'm like, okay, I guess I'm going to be a part of this performance.
Yeah.
And it ended up like making me feel so much better because it's like a creative release. Sometimes if you're an artist and you want to relax, you think you go to do what you always do all the time, which for me is painting. But sometimes it's not always like the end that I'm looking for. I start relaxed and then I end up getting more stressed because I'm like, I gotta finish this piece. But like with this, I had no idea what I was walking into and showed up, and it was awesome. I had a great time.
Yeah.
Got 5 more minutes.
I think that's our last slide, so.
Yeah, I think
any of you
that's
Cool,
our
yeah.
last slide. Yeah.
Does anyone have any?
Let's make time for a question or two.
Yeah, totally. Does anyone have any questions about
No pressure.
projects or in general or whatever?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Yes, for the
For
people.
the people at home.
So how often do you guys meet, and like what does that look like beforehand when like it comes to preparing for these performances? Because I know it is so just like go with the flow, you get
Yeah.
there, but what does the preparation look like if there is any?
I mean, the preparation usually is, we're figuring out what we're gonna do and like the ideas first. And when you have like a squad of 20 people who are intermittently in and out, it's difficult to like figure out how we're gonna prepare. But the thing is, once we get the idea down and we get the sort of feeling that we're going for, the best thing is to sort of play off of each other's interactions with the idea, and sort of building off of that is the best. I mean, it always comes down to the wire, figuring out when you're going to be able to meet, when everyone else is free, and a lot of the times, the whole group doesn't even get to meet together. So it becomes, a very fluid thing because it has to be.
Yeah, I would say, it really depends on the project. And I would say we don't really meet consistently unless that there's kind of like something in mind or something that we're working through. There's always like communication, but it's usually through like email or text or whatever. But for each project, it's usually like we have a general meeting about this is the project, this is the parameters, and then we'll all kind of go off and think and like email back and forth. We have like a collaborative Google Doc that we use a lot. And then I would say we have like one other meeting where we like prep stuff. There's either 1 or 2 meetings where it's like we have to make this thing or get these things together. And then it's pretty much like we maybe have one run through before we do something. And again, it's like trust. So much of it is like one idea and a whole lot of trust.
Yeah, and then once that one person or 2 people, 3 people, whatever it may be, kind of spearheads that, and you know who's really gung-ho about this project and who's not really replying to emails so much. I'm not gonna lie, I have been that person before, but I'm so glad that you like email, because once you graduate, there's a lot of stuff you have to deal with after that. When you're in school, there's a lot of stuff you have to deal with always. So that's the most important part. Is like, it's always a nice email. It's like, hey, are you doing okay? We just want to make sure if you want to be a part of this thing, you can be. It's not like, where are you at?
Right.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to wrap it up just because of the timing so people can get to class. But they'll stick around and answer more questions if anybody has them. Just want to remind you guys, next week, same time, same place, we'll be here Wayfinding. There'll be a photographer, Danny DeZayas, will be here talking. And then also remind you guys that we're going to continue our BASD program series with patterns. On the 15th will be our next presenter, Melissa Thorne. So that's Tuesday, October 15th at 6:30. So keep that in mind. We'd love to see you there. Thanks for being here and for watching. I don't know.
Thanks for watching.
I always feel like I'm on TV when I'm up here. It's